So I got this rebuilt. Now we go from there. So I put bearings in here, new seals in here. To rebuild this, take a couple blocks of wood, put this down on its face to hold this, and you can take some vice grips and you can collapse that spring and washer, and then needle those vice grips, then you can pinch the pin, and that will hold that down, and it'll allow you to work on that little wire retainer. If you do it that way, you have this thing off in like 2 or 3 minutes. Very easy. And then you can take this all apart. This snap ring here you can get off with your finger, and there's a ball bearing right here that goes in here, and that keeps this hub from just spinning while the clutch is engaged. Brake piston is down here for PTO brake. Ours, the liner was gone, and your lube reduction valve is up here, and ours had a lot of scoring and wasn't looking in the best conditions, and there is a roll pin hidden back under here and under this tin, and you just drive it through the casting, and then you take this nut off. There's a spring. This first piece comes out, and you'll see that roll pin right here, and then with a magnet you can get that other half out. The new ones, when you get them, do not be surprised. You did not get the wrong part number. They changed it, so your new one is going to be different shape here and different shape here, and they did that to help dump that lube oil faster, to help with shifting. And so I'll go get a packing, and then we'll see if we can't get this heavy bugger up into the clutch housing and go from there. The goal here in the next couple days is to be able to get this engine up to here and get the three-point and everything back on, and get the cab lifted up. So the cab, we got a lot of the interior done. It's not quite finished, but we got a lot of it done. 50 series bezel up there. How are them fans? Oh baby, that is nice. Hit that high. Oh, partner blew my hand right out of there. That's nice. Lights. We got low beam for the road. We're in a busy traffic area, so low and high beam on the road is important to us. The new cab roof doesn't fit worth a crap, so we're taking that one back, trying to find one that does fit. Hits the AC lines back here, so you can see how it just clearly does not fit. But look at them LED tail lights and warning lights. So on the highway we should be very safe. That's important to us over here. I did a lot of wiring with them little solder. It's a low temp solder shrink wrap crimp, and so you don't crimp it with pliers. And they're fast. Once you get it down, there's a little learning curve to them, but they're very fast. But it just took 9 million hours of getting all the broken bezels off, drilling out broken screws, that kind of stuff, and just cutting off the old rusted, broken stuff. It just takes so much time. But for the most part, that cab is mostly done. I wired in our ag leader harness coming through the firewall here, so that can just sit here, so there's not a whole lot of, all this excess harness can be on the right-hand battery box or something there. Then I just wired in a 12-volt plug for like a standard 12-volt plug for the Baylor monitor and stuff, and pulled him off of the circuit breaker and key. So you got key power on these 30 series cabs. Behind here you got a circuit panel, so you got key power, battery power, and you can find a ground anywhere. So my goal here in the next couple days, get all this stuff back on, get this rear end pushed away, get the cab roof off, get the cab lifted up and backed up with the hoist, get this rear end backed up, and then come in with the hoist and get the engine onto the transmission stand, or onto the transmission, and then get this other engine onto that stand and hauled over next door. Get that out of here. Splitting stands, I gotta give a shout out to my good friend Jeremy. Made us some engine splitting stands, and this is the design I wanted. We don't need big wheels. These little wheels rolls like a dream in the shop here. I wanted a lot of adjustment, but the other option, you could make this telescoping adjustment so you don't have to sit there and thread them up and down. So he made us 3 of them engine stands, And then we copied Dad's design of a transmission stand, and so he built me 2 of these. So we got 3 pair around the shop. So I got to get this one onto the front of the 4430. By the time I get the tractor buttoned up, this table will be done. And so this stuff can go out, and I can sneak that front end right through here over into the wash area, give it a good bath, and then roll it back to the front end. Still got to do a O-ring kit in that main pump and give him a good inspection. Still got to get the filter housing and this valve housing off, get that off, and go through the valve housing. So there's still got 9 million hours of work left. With any luck, the wind today is just absolutely howling, so there's no spraying to get ready for wheat today. But later today, I'd like to get that sprayer up here anyhow and get some water in it and put on my caps. You know, for winter time, you take all your caps off, get them caps back on, and get some water in the sprayer and run it, and see what froze and broke over the winter, what did you forget to drain, and kind of deal. But get that up here and start getting ready for that. So the minute the ground is ready to go, we can start field work as of, it got done raining Sunday. As of Monday, yesterday, we could have started field work. But with this kind of weather, we just wait. But yeah, 230's almost done. We got the engine back last week for both the 44 and 4020. So we got both them engines together, and just some little stuff to finish up there. Get that one back together, and this. So I don't know happening. Plus we want to start field work by the end of this week. It's a lot to do, and so okay, let's get back to work. So that packing, anytime you have to hold an O-ring or a packing in place, use a good stiff, even if you got to put it in the refrigerator, a good stiff wheel bearing grease, and it will help kind of it creates suction, and it kind of makes the port smaller, and it does a fantastic job for holding your packings in there. And same thing on this gasket. Any big gasket, you know, it's going to hang on these dowels and then want to flop down. Take a dollop of grease and just put a wipe of grease there and push the gasket into it, and it will hold it there without. So then if you ever come back, you don't have Permatex or something that absolutely just glued that gasket to that whole housing. And so I'll get my pliers out of there. Back to here. So I talked about that packing, so we got that in. If you're going to work on this housing, this snap ring holds a ball bearing right underneath him, and that keeps this housing from rotating. Set up 2 blocks like this and put them blocks to sit here. This hub goes between it, and it will sit here, and you can take a vice grip, a needle nose vice grip, and push this washer down on that spring and then lock it on, and that will allow you to work on this little retaining ring. You do it that way, you'd have this thing apart in 5 minutes. If you don't do it that way, you will chase this thing around the bench trying to get that snap ring out of there. Just works too easy that way. But yep, new bearings, new packings. Lube reduction valve is right here. Take yours out and take a look at it. And so that's this guy here. Ours had some scoring on one side and some actual pitting of some sort on another side. And when you get your new lube reduction valve, don't be alarmed. You did not get the wrong one. The new one is going to look different up here, and this pin is going to be tremendously smaller diameter on this pin here, and this area here, this landing, will be a lot smaller in diameter right there. And there's a roll pin hidden behind this plate that goes this way that you drive out, and you can get, so that roll pin sits between these two, and it sits here and helps that valve shuttle. And I think the newer design was to help dump that lube pressure quicker to help make better shifting. But he's back together, new brake for the PTO. So that's just all our fibers missing. You can see how I was rubbing on the gear with metal to metal. And so he's just right down there. And so he's back together. So I'm gonna lift that heavy bugger down in here and we'll get them in place, and then I'll catch you back again. I put this shaft into the 2-speed first, and then get yourself a long 3/8 dowel bolt. You can use 1 or 2 if you want. I don't mind a heavy Phillips on this other side because it allows me a little manipulation of the housing, and we can go together, but then we got to get our PTO to line up. And that's the other nice thing about having this housing off, is you can help see to get that PTO to mesh, and kind of go from there. I don't think, I can't do it one-handed. I've also had a few of them get kind of sticky, where I came over here with a screwdriver into one of these holes and just kind of pried a little bit once I know that the PTO is meshed. Just kind of gave it a little pry just to help tuck it in. With all the bouncing and clanging, we got one last attempt so that you can peek up at your packing and see if that is still up there. And so yeah, we just shove this in, and then we'll get our outer bolts in, and then your 2-speed bolts go through there. So this was one of them stubborn ones. So a 3/8 extension, I put in the hole, and then I just kind of had my hand here putting a little pressure, and then with my left hand rotated it, and it just went right in. Nice and easy, no banging, you're not hitting anything. So let's get these bolts cleaned up and Loctited up and get them torqued in. So I use this speed wrench a lot. I do not go back together with impact guns, and I think this is a great example. There's a lot of times going back together, you're feeling stuff to make sure things are going together. You're rotating to make sure nothing's binding as you're going. And this housing, there's a bushing in this housing that goes over the shaft, this housing. So that last ½ inch, just when you think you got it, go very careful. Use the hand wrench because you got one hand in here, and you're going to be supporting that gray housing. You're going to be supporting it, kind of rocking it. There's just a little tiny tick to it side to side as you push and pull, and you're going to kind of play with that housing and lifting while you speed wrench and just turn a little at a time on the bolt and just pull it in. If you come in with the impact gun and zip gun and start to bring these in, you can damage that bushing going together, and then that's not good, or you could damage other stuff. And so like everything else on here, we're just feeling our way together and taking our time. And so nobody gets a trophy for being first in this kind of work.